Did you know that it was invented in Germany? I didn't either, so it's about time that we talk about these 5 major inventions you didn't know were German. Hallo, Servus, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Feli. I'm originally from Munich, Germany, but I've been living here in Cincinnati, Ohio, on and off since 2016. And as a German living abroad, I noticed that my home country is actually brought up a lot more often than I ever would have expected. I mean, I did expect for Nazi history to be a topic that would come up, but I found that even in conversations about cultural topics, American history, technology, the economy, Germany somehow always plays a role. And I was reminded of that yet again when the Barbie movie and Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer came out last month, so it's definitely time for a part 2 of major inventions you didn't know were German. In part 1 from a few months ago, we already learned that we wouldn't have MP3 today if it wasn't for a German research team, or X-rays, or fridges, just to name a few. Make sure to check out the full video to have your mind blown, but the list is much longer. The first invention for today is aspirin, or in German, aspirin, which was invented by the German pharmaceutical company Bayer in the late 1800s. Aspirin is the brand name that Bayer gave the medication, but the active ingredient is acetyl salicylic acid, which is why it's also often referred to as ASA or ASS in German. It can reduce pain, fever, inflammation, and as was discovered in the 1950s, it can also help prevent blood clots. Technically, humans have been using plants that were rich in salicylic acid, such as willow bark, for thousands of years, but it wasn't until the 19th century that chemists tried to isolate and synthetically create the acid. The final breakthrough took place in the Bayer lab in Elberfeld in the year 1897. The young pharmacist and chemist Felix Hoffmann was hired to create new drugs in the lab. He worked under Arthur Eichengreen. And there are different versions of the story, but according to Bayer itself, Hoffmann's father was suffering from rheumatism and complained about the bitter taste of the salicylic acid that he was taking to reduce his symptoms. It also burned the lining of his stomach and mouth, which is why his son tried to find a way to reduce the side effects of the medication and discovered that when he mixed it with acetic anhydride, Essigsäure, it became much easier to stomach. Bayer then registered a trademark for the new medication under the name aspirin in 1899 and started selling it around the world. First as a powder in glass bottles, but then they started pressing it into standardized pills and added the Bayer cross logo. The name aspirin is a blend of A for acetyl and spir or spear from spirea, which is the plant genus from which the acetyl salicylic acid, that's a complicated word to say, was originally derived from, and then they added the common chemical suffix in, aspirin. But only about 20 years after aspirin first hit the market, Bayer actually lost its trademark in the US and in many other countries, which is why at American drugstores you'll see the name aspirin on a lot of products by manufacturers that aren't Bayer. By the way, only 11 days after Felix Hoffmann synthesized aspirin, he also synthesized heroin in the Bayer lab. He wasn't the first scientist to make heroin, but it led to Bayer commercializing it in the following years and marketing it as a cough suppressant and non-addictive substitute for morphine. The name was derived from the word heroic, or in German heroisch, and it was sold for 15 years up until 1913, when it had become pretty clear how addictive the drug is. Next up is an invention that has been very present in the public discourse recently because it was the main topic in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer that just came out: nuclear fission and the atomic bomb. Those of you who've seen the movie might remember the scene where Oppenheimer first sees the newspaper headlines that the Germans have had a major breakthrough and actually split an atom. After scientists had been researching the nature and properties of radioactivity and radioactive substances for over 40 years, the German chemist Otto Hahn and his team discovered nuclear fission in December of 1938 at the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute for Chemistry in Berlin. They had been bombarding uranium with slow neutrons and discovered that barium was produced, so another chemical element, which suggested that the core of the atom must have burst. This discovery showed that nuclear chain reaction was possible, which laid the foundation for both nuclear power and also nuclear weapons. A few years later, in 1944, Hahn actually won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for the discovery of nuclear fission. Now, right after this news first broke, the physicists at the radiation laboratory at the University of California, Berkeley, started experimenting with this. And this is where Robert Oppenheimer, one of the leading theoretical physicists at the time, was teaching. And a couple years later, in 1942, he was recruited to lead the research of the Manhattan Project with the goal of creating the world's first atomic bomb in order to defeat Nazi Germany and end World War II. And even though Oppenheimer was born in New York City, his family was originally from Germany. That's also why his name sounds so German, Oppenheimer. His father, Julius Seligmann Oppenheimer, was from a Jewish patrician family in Hanau, which lies in today's German state of Hesse, but at the time belonged to the Kingdom of Prussia. He came to the US at the age of 18, where he met his future wife, Ella Friedman, who was the daughter of Jewish immigrants from Bavaria. And even Robert Oppenheimer himself lived in Germany for a while in the 1920s when he got his PhD at the University of Göttingen under Max Born. So lots of German influence there when it comes to nuclear fission and the atomic bomb. Not to forget that the whole motivation to even build nuclear weapons was to fight the Nazis, who were believed to be working on nuclear weapons themselves. So whichever way you look at it, it all traces back to Germany. In good ways and in very bad ways. Now, one thing that was invented in Germany, but that you can access all over the world, is Lingoda, where you can learn languages online and live with experienced native level teachers. When Ben and I went to the Dominican Republic recently, it really bugged me that I didn't speak any Spanish. I only learned English and French in school, and even though I really tried, this was all I could really say by the end of our vacation. Quiero ordenar un mojito. Uno? Y una mimosa. I mean, better than nothing, I guess, but I really want to be able to communicate in Spanish, and Lingoda is giving me that extra motivation that we all need with their 2-month sprint challenge, where if you complete the challenge, you can earn 50% off your money back, or alternatively, get Lingoda class credits that are worth 2.5 times the monetary cash back. The Sprint is an intense language learning course that will immensely boost your confidence speaking in your target language, because you'll be consistently immersed in the language and establish natural language learning habits. If you choose the Super Sprint Challenge, you'll do 30 lessons a month for 2 months, and this is what you get back when you win the challenge. Or you can do the Sprint, which is a little less intense, with 15 lessons a month. Whether you want to learn Spanish, like me, or German, which I know many of you are interested in, French, English, or business English, Lingoda offers classes from beginner to advanced levels, and classes are available 24/7, so you can fit them into your daily schedule no matter what. The classes are super immersive and interactive with only 5 students max, so you'll get a lot of practice and individual feedback, but it's totally in a safe space. I've never had a bad experience in the classes. Everyone always fully supports each other in their language learning progress. If you want to check out the Lingoda Sprint Challenge as well and get to that next level in your target language, make sure to click on the link below for more information and use my code FADY20 for a $25 discount on your Sprint registration. We've already talked about the German roots of the Oppenheimer story. Now let's talk about the other half of Barbenheimer. In case you missed it, the 2 movies both came out on the same day this year, so this whole concept of Barbenheimer became a thing. But yes, even Barbie originated